slack. Here we go.
Let's cut him some slack.
And here we are. We're live. I've still got the KG Tropical stream going here.
Everybody's
so
live.
This is going to be the transition going on here. Somehow we're going to have to work something out where, like, I just text them like, all right, 10 seconds, just so that they know that when we're up and running, and they can, I don't know, have dinner or something like that. Have a wonderful little dinner. So hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Glad you're hanging out with us. We're going to give it a minute so that they can end their stream and we can roll on here. It would be, we should do something like kind of like a network, like, all right, now we're going to hand it off to you, like it's like
like the next news.
That's right.
Yes.
Like you're going from
now for the news at 9.
Yeah, like Ron Burgundy to
what's your name?
No.
Veronica Corningstone?
Veronica Corningstone. Or, no, I was thinking with the other guy, Jack Lame. Remember? All right, but if we win, you have to go by the name of Jack Lame for the rest of your life. I don't like that name. Too bad. So anyway, glad you're here hanging out with us. Thanks for being here. Let's see here. Let me fix some stuff up for us because we need to do that.
Your girl, Winkmaster, is in the house.
No way.
Yes, Crystal, I saw your message. I will send you the picture and get to see it. I'm going to send you a picture, though, too. Okay, I got your message. Yeah.
You're going to send a picture?
Yeah,
a picture of
our gift. Our gift that I got to show off.
Okay. Well, that's
the appropriate time.
Seems pretty good. So, so tonight we have some things going on. We have a subject that we wanted to talk about because we are going to be discussing driftwood. And I think it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about all the different types of driftwood. It's a video I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I think I still will do that video. But I thought it would be cool. So if you are somebody who's just watching this because you clicked on maybe in a month from now, and you're like, I just want to know about driftwood, probably skip ahead to skip through the first 8 minutes or so, or 10 minutes, and I promise you'll get to the driftwood part because, that would be annoying if you wanted to just learn about driftwood, and here you are on a live stream.
Blabbering on.
That's right. So while we are waiting for the people to roll in, we always do this, videos that have been out and about the last week or so. If you haven't seen them, I did a video on Sunday that I rather enjoyed because some of you had some opinions about the thumbnail that I used for the video from 2 weeks ago. I talked about fish that I personally wouldn't breed.
Opinion.
Yeah, fish I wouldn't breed in 2025. And a lot of people were like, oh, okay, that's a fun subject. But, oh, my gosh, I got some comments like, I hate your thumbnail. Because the thumbnail was AI generated, and I didn't even notice this until people pointed it out. If you look really closely at that thumbnail, the fish that I used has 2 mouths. It's the dumbest thing ever. Like you hear these AI generated thumbnails, how they make mistakes. Well, this one, oh my gosh, the guppy, it's got 2 mouths. So anyway, there were some comments there, and it got me thinking. And it's like, when it comes to YouTube, I don't mind necessarily the AI-generated thumbnails, but I'm not a fan of AI-generated content at all. I turn it off right away as soon as I hear that. So that was what the video was about, how AI is going to potentially impact fish keeping. That was the one we did on Sunday. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It'll be fun. And then Sunday on Container Joy, you did some planters, I believe?
I did some planters.
Well, I mean, did you talk about planters?
What kind of planters?
I don't know. Come on. Fall planters. So if you like,
I had to get the last fall in before we head to Christmas land.
Yeah. So if you are somebody who's into gardening,
decor,
land plants, check out Container Joy. That's her other channel, or one of her other channels. Because then today, on the small scape, you talked about algae. Mm-hmm.
I did.
Yep,
I owed you a video, I promised, and I owed it to the thrilling conclusion to my battle in the 3.5 gallon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. Steve says, oopsie, John's payback for ripping Jason's tank. Yeah, so John texted me late last night. He's like, dude, I need one of your tanks. Get something going. I'm like, all right, so here's some footage of my tank. So he showed it off on, they were doing a little rating system and I just gave him the 125 back when it was electric blue Acara tank. It was like, it was very sparse.
Oh,
so,
nice.
That tank deserved to be critiqued heavily, if you will. So whatever he said, I'm sure it was accurate.
They had some funny videos earlier on their live stream.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch because Eli came home late, and then I had to run to the gym with him. But so anyway, yeah, that was what was happening there. Algae today on the small scape. Today also, or yesterday, I mean, today we got the members video, and then Sunday I've got a fun one for you. I hope you're going to enjoy it, and actually a very useful one as well. Do want to say thank you to everybody who came out to the Greenwater Aquarius Society swap. That was what, last Saturday? Was it last Saturday? Saturday before?
I think
last
so.
Saturday. Yeah, it was last Saturday. So
Boy,
thank
it's
you
a
very
blur.
much.
Yes,
and
I think so.
This Sunday, a couple days from now, on the 17th, we're going to be in Quad City. We're going to be in Davenport, Iowa. That is a great swap. It's free to get in. You don't have to be like a special member or have a special knock on the door in order to get in there. It's going to be awesome. There are hundreds of tables there. It's the biggest swap maybe in the United States, but absolutely in the Midwest. And so we're going to be there. Website, primetimeaquatics.com, has been updated. We've got the fish available. Some of them have already sold out, but if you're going to head that way, check out the website. You can do your pre-orders there. And then the next swap after that isn't for a little while because there's only one more in our area between, at least one that we attend, between now and the end of the year, and that's the GCCA on the 8th of December in Northbrook. Yeah, almost forgot where that is. So, yeah, that is where we're at. We did, before we get into the Driftwood subject, which we're going to do here in a minute or two, we got some things. And last week we failed at our job to recognize.
Yeah, you know, if he doesn't remember and I don't remember, it's just hashtag
it goes
every day.
into the unremembering. But somehow we remembered.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
All right. So first of all, at Aquashella, we did get an envelope with a little gift card from M. Lawson. So if you are watching, thank you so much. Very nice. Nice card and stuff.
Yeah,
thank you. Then from the one, the only, Oink Master Supreme Forever. She sent us another little goodie, and she sends the sweetest things. This is a cutting board that's been like etched, and she gets these personalized things that are so
very
cool.
thoughtful.
So whoever
Extremely
makes
thoughtful.
this is just like so nice. And yes, Oink, I'm going to send you a picture so you have it too. But yeah, all duckweed costumes are welcome. Because who doesn't walk around with duckweed on their arm?
True.
Sometimes I'll have it on my arm, and I don't even bother taking it off. I just go throughout the house, and then I'm
when
like,
it dries, it'll fall, and the dogs will eat it or something.
Whatever.
That's life as a fish keeper. If
it
you don't
is.
have duckweed on your arms, on your clothes,
that.
maybe in your hair. Sometimes I've had it in my beard.
Yeah.
You know, because you're doing something and you go like this. Next thing you know, you're like, oh,
what the heck?
Half hour later, like, what is going on here?
Duckweed.
Oh yeah, it's duckweed. It's dried up duckweed. As long as it doesn't wind up in my mouth, I guess it's okay, right?
Probably wouldn't know it 'cause it's so tiny.
That is true, but and I'm not sure if I know how it tastes either. Has anybody ever eaten Has anybody eaten duckweed before? I'd be very curious to know if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I love me some duckweed. Although you can make fish food out of it. So
I would think because there's a lot of fish that eat it, right?
And you could mix that and you could dry it. So you have to dry it, and then you could mix it into like rapashi, where they've got like the standard community blend, and you can put the dried duckweed in there, and that can give some vegetation, if you will. Mr. Fish says he's eaten duckweed before. That's awesome. It's supposed to be nutritious. I'll take your word for it. I'm sure it is. I mean, it's green.
Emma says supposedly it's the next superfood like kale.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Tiny kale.
That's right. We didn't
Tiny
know
salads.
we were throwing away millions of dollars worth of nutrients all this time. That and like Jungle Val. You could just scoop that up,
Can
make
you
a salad
imagine?
out of it, and be like, wow, you look great. How old are you?
No.
Like, I'm 108. You only look like 94. I know, it's the duckweed that I've been eating my whole life. That would be pretty darn cool. So, yeah, today we are going to be talking about driftwood, right?
Yes.
That's our plan.
Yes.
And we have a lot of show and tell for you today. That's what's going to be awesome. Before we get into the show and tell, let me see if I can scroll. Let me see how far back I can go, because I did want to say thank you to Dory for becoming a prime timer. And I just saw another one pop through here. That's what reminded me of it as Joanna's pointing away. Northfin.
That's what I'm pointing at.
Oh my gosh, Northfin's
I
in
recognize
the
that
house.
label on the
Very
top of the.
cool.
First I saw the
Nice.
label. I'm like, I know that label.
Glad you're here. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Appreciate it. Northfin is, and I saw
Honored.
Northfin was over in the KG Tropicals land as well. That
Very
is the
cool.
food that we feed. That's exclusively what we do, and I've been doing it for years. And like I've always said, high stakes here, because if our fish don't eat, we lose thousands of fish, and that would be a very horrible thing. So got to make sure they eat and they're eating quality food. So, driftwood.
Driftwood.
You like driftwood. I like driftwood. Who doesn't like driftwood? Is there
Who
anybody
doesn't?
here who's man or lady enough to admit that they don't like driftwood? Just type out a little "I hate driftwood" thing in the chat.
I could see certain kinds, or like at certain moments. You can have a moment.
Okay.
You know.
All right. So let's keep it a little bit more upbeat. Does anybody have a favorite type of driftwood? What is your favorite driftwood on the face of the earth? You can do favorite driftwood, least favorite driftwood. How about that? How about that? All right. I would love to hear, just as a quick little, you know what? I like whatever.
Tropical Tank
Yeah.
TV. I'm pro driftwood.
I like putting a big tree stump in my tank. Don't do that.
I love. Yeah.
That would be bad.
I like that style scape though. I call it a woodland scape.
Yeah, it can be cool. All right, so let's talk about driftwood real quick. Not real quick, but let's talk about driftwood. So I think obviously the reason why we like to add it is it gives that natural look, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look behind us, well, I mean, again, these tanks are kind of blurry because we're in focus and they're not, but we have driftwood, oddly enough, in 1, 2, 3 tanks, but not the one behind us, not the one over by Joanna's head, because that's a lake tank and you can set up, but I decided I wanted driftwood in the Mbuna tank on my side, and then the two 125s also have driftwood because we really love it, and it's awesome. And I think there are some benefits. Can you think of any, besides the fact that driftwood looks cool and makes a natural looking tank, what are some benefits that people may not necessarily realize right away?
Tannins.
Tannins. What's a tannin?
It's basically tea water.
It's like tea
Yeah,
water.
It's gonna color your water. It'll probably, the first time it happens, is gonna scare you.
Yep.
And make you angry.
It could. And I remember the first time I put driftwood in a tank, and I'm like,
oh,
this tank looks
what
horrible. And you
great.
freak out at first. In
Yeah.
fact, I did a video, and I think I might have linked a video about driftwood in the description of the live stream if you want more information. But I've done a number of driftwood videos, and one of them was, oh my gosh, my driftwood just turned my water brown. What do you do? Well, don't freak out, because like Joanna said, it's just releasing tannins, tannic acid. And that stuff has antimicrobial properties, and so it can actually be beneficial to your fish. In fact, there are some people, when they quarantine fish, they will throw in a whole bunch of botanicals just to add those tannins that will cut down on some of the external parasites. So it can be a definite benefit.
Insider trick.
Any other benefits that you can think of with the driftwood? Besides getting that natural look and the tannins, which gives you some dark water, which can be cool.
Well, a lot of fish like it, like say shrimp or plecos.
Absolutely. And the reason, so there are some plecos that actually require some wood in their diet. Not usually the more common ones, but some of them do. But definitely the wood will support the growth of biofilms, and that can be fantastic, like you said, for shrimp, for snails, for plecos, anything that's going to just be kind of scavenging and munching along, which would be like your Siamese algae eaters, Chinese algae eaters, otocinclus, hillstream loaches. So there's a lot of fish out there, red-tailed sharks, rainbow sharks that are just kind of munch. They can get some food from the driftwood because there's microbes that grow on the surface and creates like a biofilm. And that can be very beneficial. Now, speaking of biofilm, though, there are some downsides to driftwood, and I think tannins could be one of those things, because if you don't want brown water, that can be a problem. I always tell people, don't freak out. If you get tannins in your aquarium, it's fine. All you have to do, you can do some water changes, and eventually those tannins go away. And in fact, it's one of the things that I don't enjoy happening is when we do water changes, and I've got a tank that is got the brown water, the tannin stained water. I like that. But over time, I know slowly but surely it's going to go away. But there's other things that can go wrong with the driftwood, like what? You did a video on it. I think I did a video on it.
Well, besides that white film.
Yes.
That everybody
The
loves.
dreaded white fuzz. And how many of you, if you're really honest, the first time you ever put driftwood in a tank and you're like, this looks amazing, and maybe you did all the right things, and then like a couple days later, you're like, what the heck is going on? What is all this white fuzzy slime that's all over the driftwood? It looks horrible. Is it going to kill my fish? What do I do about it? And it turns out that stuff is only temporary.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know how long it usually lasts. Maybe a week or so, And it's really easy to get rid of. So first of all, if you ever get that white slime, that can be a combination of bacteria and fungi, and it really isn't dangerous to anything. There's fish that will eat it, snails will eat it, shrimp will graze on it. You can scrape it off with a toothbrush, right? I mean, and then just scoop it out with a net.
Yeah.
The only thing that I find actually kind of annoying about it is if you have a really large piece of driftwood and you're running sponge filters especially, and that white slime actually falls off the wood and then starts to connect to the sponge filter. The sponge filters, I don't know how many of you have experienced this before, but the sponge filters get so slimy,
Yeah,
and
it's gross.
it traps so that the sponge filter can't get water through, and then you're trying to squeeze that stuff out, and it's really hard to like get that slime off the sponge filter every once in a while. But other than that, it's really not anything that I'm super concerned about, other than the fact it's like, well, this doesn't look so great. That's why usually when you see like aquascapers and stuff, like, look at my awesome tank, they make sure they show you that tank usually, if not the first day, the second, maybe the third day, because usually around day 3, 4, 5, that stuff is going to grow.
Well, yeah, and they're going to deal with the same things that we would.
Yeah.
And they would have to keep, because they're creating something in their own home, because they have, I've talked to a number of aquascapers, real fast story, at Aquashella, and they were like, yeah, a lot of people think that we just, you can't maintain these tanks. And they're like, yes, you can. It just, you have to keep on top of it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, there are ways to minimize some of these problems that we're talking about. One of them, and it was probably the worst thing that I've experienced when it comes to driftwood in an aquarium, and that was Aquashella Daytona, I believe, but it was not this past one. It was the one before.
So Orlando?
Yeah. No, it would have been Daytona because we've been to Daytona twice. So the first Daytona, not this one we were just at, the one before.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I thought you said not
I
the
think
one
that was
last
the
time.
one, right? Where it was my first aquascaping. I did it with Jimmy.
Oh,
was
yeah.
that the one?
Yeah, that was the one.
What wood did we put in that tank? Do you remember what it was called?
It's like vine, something vine.
Oh, it's like a grapevine, or not a grapevine, but some type of a vine wood. And it was
We
just
have a big giant piece out there that I've never used.
Yeah,
it's
well,
just
and
decorating
now
the garage.
it's never ever going to be used. So it was some type of a vine wood, and we grabbed it out of the bin because it was being supplied by whoever was sponsoring the aquascapes, and we had to aquascape a tank that was in the whatever we were calling at the time, the fish tube booth. So we grabbed these pieces of wood, we put them in the tank. I believe that aquarium was somewhere around 40, maybe 40 to 60 gallons. I don't remember exactly. We aquascaped this thing. We fill it with water. I had some awesome fish that I put in there. I think there was some black phantom touch. No. Yeah.
What did you put in there?
Yeah, black phantom tetras and maybe some rummy nose or something in my tank. And sure enough, this wood, it clouded up the tank. Like the next morning, all the fish were piping at the surface. So you could tell there was no oxygen. And this wood had released so much in terms of organic material into the water that it had basically made it impossible. It sucked all the oxygen out. And that weekend, I believe I did probably 4 or 5, 75 to 90% water changes in that tank.
You were busy.
And refilled it. And we managed to get through it. And then after all of that, we learned from like James and those guys at OAS, oh yeah, don't use that wood. It's really not meant for aquariums. It was more meant for reptiles, but people have been putting it in their aquariums. So it was some type of a vine wood. Be really careful with that because that can cause quite a mess. Northfin, thank you so much for doing that. They just gifted 10 new prime timers to be part of the club. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoys it. Say a big thank you to Northfin for doing that. That's awesome. Thank you. So, yeah, now there are ways to get around this issue, right? What's probably not necessarily with that vine wood, because that would not have helped.
You leave it at the store.
Yeah.
Or put it outside the tank.
Yeah.
Or in the garden.
Everything else, if you wanted to, because there's actually one other issue. It's an issue that you deal with that frustrates you to no end when you're aquascaping.
Oh, yeah, it wants to float.
Yeah, most would prefer to float. And so we get that question.
2 hands.
Yeah, we get that question all the time when it comes to, hey, I put driftwood in my aquarium and now it won't stay down, right? So there are tips and tricks to that. Yeah. Have you covered that in your channel before? Tips and tricks to make driftwood sink? Because you should. Next week, Joanna's going to do that next week. Tips and tricks.
Would be fun. I wonder if I have
we're
enough.
We're going to spill the tea right now. We're going to spill the tannins right now.
That's a great shirt.
Yep. Yep.
Although
We're
that's
about
for phrases is probably already on the way out. If
Well-
like 50 plus people are quoting that, the phrase is out.
I'm pretty disappointed in myself that I even just said that. I'm not going to lie.
But
It felt
spill the
really
tannins,
awkward.
that's funny.
Yeah. So we're going to spill the tannins right now on that. And that is, what were we spilling the tannins on?
Oh, there we go.
Hold on, everybody. I do this sometimes with my students. I'll get on like a little tangent. I'm like, all right, where were we? We were here. Thank you very much. It's usually the
See,
nerds
they're
that sit up
younger.
front.
They
Yeah,
know.
They keep track. So, what can we do to deal with things like, hey, the wood's not floating. Hey, we got this white fuzz. Hey, I don't want all these tannins in my tank. There's really one primary thing that we're doing, and what is it? If we can.
To avoid it,
Yeah.
boil it.
Boil it.
Boil it.
it.
Another bonus for getting small tanks, because you're going to have small driftwood,
True.
and it can actually fit in the pot that you have.
That's very true. If you have a piece of driftwood that is small enough to boil, go ahead and do that. I usually like to take a big giant pot. I fill it with hot water. I put it on the stove. In goes a driftwood. Turn the water on high. Let that boil. It turns dark brown. Take some type of a grabby guy, not your bare
Grabby
hands,
guy.
because you're dealing with boiling water. Get the wood out. Be very careful, right? Make sure, maybe let the water cool a little bit. Dump it out. Do it again, and you can do that 3 or 4 times, and usually by the 3rd or 4th time, there's not a lot of tannins in that pot. I would suggest not using like your most awesome pots that you use for soup or stew or something like that, especially if you have a significant other that will not appreciate it. So just be a little thoughtful, because sometimes it will stain a little bit, and just people generally speaking, unless they're they're us, right? Fish nerdy people. Like, I don't really care if you boil driftwood in a pot and then, I don't know, later that night I got to boil some noodles. Well, as long as the thing is washed, if there's a little bit of an aroma to my noodles,
No.
so be it. I don't care.
That can't be good. That cannot be good. And I got rid of our
That's-
driftwood pot, too.
It's nature. How bad can it be? Anyway, so, okay.
Whoever listened to what he just said, no.
So boiling, that can help. Releases the tannins if you don't want that. Is it going to cut down on the white fuzzy stuff? I haven't found that to really matter. It still happens, because
Yeah.
you still got some of those organic compounds that the bacteria and the microbes are wanting to eat, even with the boiling. But it will also help it float. I mean, that is one of the main things, especially if you've got smaller botanicals, smaller pieces of wood that we're going to show you here in a couple minutes. That can really be helpful, letting it sink, getting rid of the tannins. But again, if I'm boiling anything, it's just to make it sink. I like the tannins. If you've got a piece of driftwood that's just way too big and you're not going to be able to boil it, that's fine. Get a big plastic tote, fill it with water, let it soak. It's not going to release the tannins as fast, but it will waterlog that wood so that it sinks. Now, there are other tricks that you can use. If the wood is not sinking, what are you doing? Briefly.
Oh, other tricks?
Yeah.
Your friend super glue.
Yeah. And super glue, do you have a specific brand that you would recommend?
Yes, but you know what? I need to get more, because I literally just threw it away earlier because it was gone.
Okay, but what is it?
Bob Smith Industries.
But that's what it was. And it's got an accelerator too, right? That you can spray on
If
there
you
that
get the
helps it
2-pack,
cure?
yeah. If you get some of them.
You did a
they
video
list-
on that, on the small
I did.
scape.
That
yeah.
I did.
Yeah, like the best
Yes.
super glue in the world or whatever, or aquascaping secrets.
It is secret.
Now, but here's my question, just to be clear. If you use super glue and you super glue wood to wood, that's not solving your problem. So what are we gluing the wood to?
Well, you're going to want to, what typically the aquascapers will do is they will you have the tank, and then frequently they will actually glue the, well, I don't think they glue rocks necessarily, but they have the rock, usually the, what's that called? The egg crate.
Yeah.
And then the rocks, and then they glue the driftwood to the rocks. And then, but if you have a big gap, thinking how are you going to use super glue? It only dries so much. You use something like cotton balls. You can use filter floss. Yeah, I've used pieces of paper towel, and it's magic when it works, because it's you kind of shove between the two little little nooks and crannies. You shove in a piece of whatever, cotton batting, whatever.
Between the connection points, the contact points.
Thank you. I
That's why
just
I'm here.
use visuals and thingies and whatchamajiggers.
Yeah.
And then squirt in the super glue, and then it becomes almost like gummy, and then it hardens, and it's magic.
Yeah.
That's what
I
you're
was
going to
always
do.
afraid of super glue because one time when I was a kid, and this Dory just reminded me of this when she said she super glued her hand to her pants a couple weeks ago. My grandmother, and I remember it to this day, she super glued her fingers together.
Oh.
And she was like freaking out about it. And I was like a
Yeah.
little kid. So I thought like her fingers were always going to be stuck. And then she was making a big deal out of it. I don't remember how she got her fingers separated, but it's really, I mean, it
just
stinks, but
some
it's
soap, some
it's
water.
okay. Yeah.
You know.
So I was very afraid of super glue when I was a child. I was like,
too.
oh, I'm not going to super glue my hand together like my grandma did. So anyway,
Yeah.
super glue will absolutely work. Strategically placing rocks. I know that we've gotten comments periodically like, you'll do a scape back in the old day when this was like the fish room. Like, why is that rock there? That looks ridiculous. And it's like, well,
It's
yes,
temporary.
it's not ideally placed. However, it's there to actually weigh the wood down. Right? I've got that. When I set up, I tried to hide it as best I could, but in Buddha tank over here, the 75-gallon, I glued a number of pieces of wood together, and then I glued them to rocks, and that even wasn't enough, so I had to place some rocks kind of on top of the wood, and it all held in place, and the stuff never moved. So don't be afraid to kind of jam wood in between rocks, to put rocks on top of wood, and then once it really gets waterlogged after a month or so, you can move those rocks around a little bit and make it to your liking.
Yeah, that's a good point, Lynn. You can totally wear gloves. Just wear gloves.
So you can super glue the fingers of the gloves together.
And then you can leave your gloves in there.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. So can we talk a little bit about the different types of wood? Because each of them,
Yeah.
I wanted to spend some time talking about maybe some advantages, disadvantages of certain types of wood, because this is something that I don't think it's talked enough about. And I want to start with what I believe to be is the most common type of wood. And we got show and tell here. We've got our little table over here. Joanna's going to grab the wood that I request. And the first one to me is the Malaysian driftwood. And the reason why I think we're going to start here is this is a wood type that when you go to most pet stores, it's readily available. I would say, here we go. Here's a piece of Malaysian driftwood. It's unfortunately, this is kind of common with this kind of wood where it's just kind of a block. I would say it's the blockiest of all the wood, right?
Generally.
Wouldn't you say?
Big chunk of wood.
I personally find, in my very limited aquascaping knowledge, this is the hardest for me to aquascape with.
Really?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
I'm not as huge.
I'm a
I'm not as
simple
big of a
person.
fan because this stuff, it's always big chunks and it's not as shapely as some of the other woods. There are some, again, the advantages are cheap. Would you, in terms of just overall heaviness and blockiness, this is probably as heavy and as blocky as you're going to get.
As there's another one that's also
Yeah, for sure.
But yes.
But I mean, if you want a
It's a
really,
bonus.
really, really large piece of wood that is going to be still accessible, right? Not overly expensive. This is great. It sinks. I would say out of all the wood we're about to talk about, this and maybe one other probably sinks the fastest.
Yeah.
There are some significant downsides to this wood, though, I think. Can you think of any?
Yeah, it's really going to clog up your water, and it breaks down. Like
Yeah, this is of all the wood that we're going to show you today, this is probably the softest. It does break down the fastest. It will leave little chunks and pieces everywhere, like you said. It has a tendency. Would you say that this releases more tannins than any other type of wood? I would say that that's definitely the case.
I personally that would be my bet. Yes.
Yeah. So I do think that is the case. This releases more tannins. It gets the fuzziness. Not as much, though, as some of the other woods. I don't think that the fuzziness is as bad, but this stuff definitely, of all the wood I'm going to talk about today, for me personally, and everybody's got their own personal taste. If yours is different, that's fine. But to me, this is my least favorite because of the softness, the way it breaks down, the general shape. It's difficult for me, especially as a beginner who's trying to decorate my tank and make it look nice, So that's Malaysian.
That single piece would make an excellent mountain.
I think this piece actually came out of the 75 and it was leaning up against the back of the aquarium, and that's
Or
where
like
the plecos used to stay. It was like this.
Remember? Oh my gosh, it's still bugging me
Yeah.
when we were at the was it OCA.
You could take that away. Yeah, I don't know.
What's the OCA? The one where the hotel rooms.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
There was a piece of driftwood that looked like a sunken boat, and I didn't get it. And it's been haunting me ever since.
Yeah, sunken boats are definitely a thing with the Malaysian driftwood. Can we have the next piece, please, which I think is the second most common? Jose, you're absolutely right. Plecos love that wood. So when I have a pleco breeding tank, usually I try to add Malaysian driftwood or this one. Is this the Mopani?
Yeah.
Mopani, I think, is another one that's super, super, super common. Now, price-wise, often the same as the Malaysian driftwood. This can also be a big piece too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can get these in pretty large pieces. I like this wood a little bit more because, all right, so this is a nice piece. I mean, again, every piece of wood is different. And so you look at this, and what I love about Mopani driftwood is it has two personalities. It has this, usually has this lighter, more smooth side, but usually a lot of Mopani, you turn it around and you can get the dark side, the more dangerous element to your wood. Oh, yes. Happy, dangerous. But this is great. I like this. These often have very unique shapes.
Sure.
They've got a little bit more jagged, I think, and so often want to be a little bit more careful with these edges. If you got long fin fish, maybe there's more dangerous wood than this to be sure that we're going to be talking about. This will also release a fair amount of tannins into the water. Not as much as the Malaysian driftwood. What else? What else would you like to say about the Mopani? Harder wood, I think. It doesn't fall apart nearly as fast as Malaysian driftwood.
What else would I add that you haven't covered? I don't know if I'd add anything. I personally like this one because it's fun to kind of nestle rocks in. There's like natural, like that. That would be really hard to like do some cheats with the Malaysian driftwood. It would be really hard to do some cheats and like have some rocks kind of try and hold it in. But you could totally use rocks to.
It's like a dinosaur. Sorry. Yes, you could totally use rocks. My bad. Someone's going to be listening to that and not actually be watching. Like, what is going on? This looks like some kind of a weird dinosaur.
Remember at Greenwater? I think I deleted the video, but at Greenwater there was an auction or something, and there was a piece of, I think it was Mopani, and it looked like a Star Wars blaster. So you were like, pew, 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 pew. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. Let me get that on video. And I had to do it again, but then it didn't work, or the sound was on, so I had to do it again. So then the video that I finally got was you were like, pew, 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 pew. And then you like throw it on the table like, I'm done. It was really funny.
This is not the best representative piece that...
It is if you like nano tanks and shrimp. Go on, show it.
This little thing is supposed to represent manzanita wood.
It is manzanita wood.
Well, I mean, it is, but
it is.
You can find this stuff. And you know what we should have done?
Huge.
There's manzanita wood in the top 125. In fact, it's the tank that John showed you. All right, so if you watched the live stream right before us in KG Tropicals, he showed you the electric blue Acara tank. That is manzanita wood in there, is it not? I'm 99.7% sure.
I think so.
That's what we got going on in there. So,
yeah.
Manzanita wood. Lots of little spiky areas. This stuff can get, I mean, you can get some big pieces here too.
Yeah.
The thing that you have to be aware of is that because it's branching out in so many different, different directions, that it can take up a lot of space, a lot of swimming space in your tank. So if you've got large fish, that can be a little bit tough for them to navigate sometimes.
Or long fin fish.
Fish. Yeah, this can be a little bit sharp. However, what I like about this and what we attempted to do, in fact, I think it was still even in the little clip that John and Lisa showed in the KG Tropicals live stream, is I had a Nubius stuck. And I don't remember if it was wedged or if we actually,
I think we probably glued it.
But it's really cool because you can put like I should probably hold this up a little bit easier so you can see it. But you can put little pieces of a Nubius Nana in here, Nana Petite, kind of glue it or wedge it in there. And then kind of, after it grows a little bit, it looks pretty cool.
Moss.
So again, this is
moss
would be another one for sure. This is going to release some tannins, not nearly as much as the manzanita or Mopani. This stuff will break down as well. Does it break down as fast as the other ones? Not as fast as Malaysian. But yeah, and then when it does, it leaves these little twigs and sticks everywhere. So that can be kind of a little bit of a pain. But yeah, because it gets a little soft and these things break down. But it takes a while for that to happen, in my opinion.
Now, I think this is the worst for one issue. This is the worst driftwood.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first thing that came to mind is green hair algae. Because the green hair algae gets caught up in here like it did in the tank behind me. And it's really hard to get that off of there. Where green hair algae, if it sticks to manzanita or Mopani, you can just take it off as a big clump. the white fuzz.
Yes.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think so.
White fuzz, definitely. And it's a little bit more of a pain
To get the little
because you got to get all these little nooks and crannies out. That happens with the Mopani too, but you can just scrape that off. It's normally a solid surface. But like I said, the Malaysian driftwood, I think it's the least likely to get the white fungus stuff, right? But yeah, that's manzanita. This stuff is sometimes, for what it is, I think more expensive, certainly more expensive than the Malaysian. Mopani, maybe slightly more. But just because I feel it takes so much of this to make it look like the tank is full or like has a proper aquascape.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be a large enough piece or a multiple pieces. But the benefit is it takes a lot of visuals. It's so weird. Visual space up,
Yeah.
but without taking up any weight. So if you're worried about like
Good
adding
point.
additional weight,
Yeah.
that's why I will frequently look at that. If you have it on a piece of furniture or something, even for a nano tank, and you're like, oh, I really don't want to push it, manzanita.
Yep. Can we do?
It starts out
We
red.
skipped over the other one that I think is actually a better option. Can I have the other gnarly piece over there? It starts with an S, ends with an iter. Spiderwood. Give me the
Thank you.
spiderwood. This is my personal favorite. I
No, I
love.
don't think, there you go.
What? You don't
Oh,
think what?
no, I was just going to say that's not really the most like common looking type of
No,
spiderwood.
no, it's not. But
That
I,
reminds me of mangrove.
Yeah.
And that's why I got it.
Quick, man, grab my hand.
See,
So, I do. I love spiderwood. It is my favorite. Is that what I've got in the tank in the 125 Nano? I love this
Think
wood.
so.
There is, as a beginner aquascaper dude, there's almost no way you can mess this up. At least for me, you just kind of put it in different orientations. It takes usually more than one piece of wood, so it works best. You get like 3, 4, 5 pieces, and you make a really cool thing. Like, let me move my head out of the way. So that's what we got going on back there. All right, so the 125 behind my head, that was actually, I want to say 5 or 6 pieces. If you went back when I actually did the setup, I tell you how many pieces it is that I glued together. But that is, yeah, that's all that right there. I absolutely love this wood. It is my favorite. Yes, you are going to get the white fuzzy stuff. Not a lot of tannins at all with this. Another thing to keep in mind, color right now.
I was just,
Go
I was
ahead.
just going to
You
say.
go, girl. You go, girl.
Well, that's
You
that.
go.
Oh my gosh, it's like Freddy Krueger, and I've never even seen the movie. Creep. But I was thinking when we first set that tank up, the when you get spiderwood, it's very light brown. So you're like, oh, I don't know if I like that color. Any driftwood will darken over time, including that.
Yeah, this for sure. I find it to be relatively hardy, more so than the manzanita.
Yes.
It is definitely a harder wood. It's not going to
Yeah.
fall apart as fast. The only downside to me with this, well, there's 2 downsides. One, the white fuzz. I think it is the most prolific on this wood. And then cost. This can be somewhat pricey if you get the really nice, larger pieces relative to like a manzanita, Mopani. I do think it's still a little bit more expensive than the manzanita, wouldn't you say?
I don't know. I'm usually not looking at the price first. I'm usually just like grabbing pieces. You
Yeah.
know, like
But it's awesome.
not
this,
good at,
this is the
price.
stuff right here. Okay, next one. I want to do, it's a ghost slide.
okay.
I
know
really
that.
enjoy this wood
I
too.
understood that reference.
Does anybody else? Hold on. It's a ghost slide. Rear view mirrors. We'll get you some.
We'll get you some. Okay, and that's used.
This is actually, this is my second favorite type of wood. I believe this is what I used in the 75-gallon over here. Is like 3 or 4 pieces of
some
this.
of it, yeah.
Right? Some of it was, maybe. Ghost wood.
Yeah.
Love this stuff.
Mhm.
This is another one, though, color-wise, where it's going to get darker.
Yes, it's
Um,
ready. It has gotten darker because I think we used it in a tank.
Yeah. Check out the patterns, though. Look at this. Look at those patterns.
It's pretty just even
Right.
on top of your counter.
Yep. I mean, this is just a remarkably awesome piece of wood. Of all the wood for its size, this is the most frustrating to me to actually get it to sink.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is often an aquascaper's nightmare, in my opinion, because once you start gluing this, it breaks its glue joints the easiest too, in my opinion, right? Because it's got this weird sort of dynamic where it's kind of heavy, has a lot of surface area, but yet it floats like crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not as dense as you think it would.
That's
like
exactly
fluffier in there or something.
Where at least like with the manzanita and the spiderwood, when you glue that together, it's all light, and as long as you can get it glued to rocks, it's probably going to be okay. This stuff, because it floats so easy, and because it is a little bit more substantial, it will break its glue joints with rocks. It will break its glue joints with one another. And for me, this is one where I really, really like to put rocks on top just to hold it into place. I think that's super important. So, but this is a great wood. White fuzz is definitely going to happen. Tannin release will happen to a certain extent. Probably, I would say this might be third place.
Yeah,
behind
you think so?
Manzanita or behind Malaysian and then Mopani, would you say?
Yeah,
That
probably.
this is probably third place in terms of, you wouldn't
My
think it because
experience.
it's kind of a lighter wood, but at least, from our experience, right? Isn't that what everybody says on YouTube? It's like the great, well, I'm going to say whatever I want right now. And then if I say in my experience, you can't argue that because it's my experience.
Well, yeah. Plus, you're also really just saying,
know.
I can't offer anybody else's experience unless I'm looking
You
at a
can.
review.
You can say, in everyone's experience, this
Says
happens.
me.
Yeah. So anyway, really cool wood. I think this is my second favorite. Now, you really haven't said your favorites. Do you have a favorite, like a top? Would you say one or two or three? Like if you could only aquascape with a certain types of wood, what would you do?
It depends on my mood.
Okay, there you have it.
Yeah,
Can
it just
we
depends
do
on the tank and stuff.
the most mispronounced wood on the face of the earth?
Yes.
Because I did this when I was first.
This is a sweet piece
Ooh,
too.
this
I
is
remember when I got it,
cool.
I was like, "That's cool." That's not typically how you find it. I mean,
All right, everybody, what do we call this?
How do you say it?
How do we say it? I mispronounced it for probably the first year I was on YouTube. I didn't know. I would call it. All right. So hold on. We gotta spell it first. So let's put it in the chat. We'll make sure I'm spelling it correctly first. It's probably gonna autocorrect. Yep. There we go. Zen knows. So that's the way it's spelled, and Zen's got the pronunciation. It's choya wood.
Choya.
A lot of people say chola, and that's what I used to say. If you said that, so what? Whatever. You know what? It's not the end of the world. But this thing, these are great, super light. A lot of times this is just going to float for a long time. This is one, again, it will release some tannins for you.
I
right?
guess I've never really
I've
seen in my experience, I don't remember it really having any effect on me.
So I put this stuff, and not even, I mean, this is a big piece. Usually you find it like maybe here, like this. Although at Aquashella in Daytona, and then at the last swap, people had some big honking pieces. Like,
I did see those, yeah.
I did a YouTube short where the inside was big enough where easy, like a pistogramma, rams, bristlenose plecos, they could all go in there and call that cave home, smaller loaches. But this is pretty cool. Usually it's kind of, I don't know if people often use this as the centerpiece wood for an aquascape, but usually it's kind of like an accent piece.
Oh, I could totally see that, like getting a ton of it.
Oh yeah, I mean if you had a lot of, there's big time problem doing that though. What is it? If you got a bunch of this and you aquascaped with a bunch of this stuff, it's got the biggest problem of all the woods we talk about, by far.
Oh, does it have a lot of film?
Yes, it does. It falls apart really fast.
Oh.
Like it is designed basically to fall apart.
That's
like when you put the
like
little parts,
honeycomb pieces, like
this stuff, like it almost dissolves. It seems like it dissolves. Shrimp love this. Your bristlenose plecos will love it, but like the shrimp especially. If you've got shrimp and you want them to have a little home, you want them to just like a little snacking on surfaces, this is the stuff, man. The choya wood is awesome. For me, I use it almost as a botanical where I would just have that little piece. It's about this long. And then, you throw it down there with some leaves or some cassia cones or something like that, right? But this is cool. A lot of white film. It is not, if you want this to sink right away, you're going to have to boil it. You're going to have to boil it or soak it because this is not going to sink. And it's, of all the wood we talk about, maybe except for the ghost wood, this would give the ghost wood a run for its money in terms of how long it floats.
True, but I think it would be really simple to glue it because they're usually in such small little pieces.
Yeah.
Find yourself, give it a little rock buddy and glue it. But what... Do you know my favorite way to use that? Pew, pew.
Pew, pew.
No.
No, I don't know. I don't know if you ever used this.
How did I use it in the bow
You
front?
see the look she just gave me?
Oh,
like I was supposed to remember, we got 80, we've probably set up, including the tanks that we've redone, 200-300 aquariums at some point.
I know.
Because at one point we had 80,
Sad
and we've
excuse.
set them all up many times.
Womp, womp,
So
womp.
anyway, no, I don't
Okay.
remember.
Probably because I've only used it in very, very few tanks. The low boy, I mean, not the low boy. The bow front
Okay.
and the nano nook.
Okay.
My Jonathan Buckus inspired
Yeah.
scape. I had a little piece of that in the tunnel,
Oh,
and
I don't
what-
remember.
Buse and Anubias Nano Petite. I will glue on there because
Oh, that's
look,
easy, yeah.
you don't even have to glue frequently. You just stick them in there, and they're like little holding pods, and then they attach eventually. I just love it. Keep a collection of tiny plants.
Yeah.
Well, I've been trying to say Buse instead of Buse.
Buse. Like Hayabusa.
Hayabusa, yes.
We have one more. There's
Yes,
lots of
it's a
different types
mystery.
of woods, but
It's a mystery.
um,
People need to say what kind it is because I don't know what it is. I think I learned it once, but it didn't stick.
so we have one more that I wanted to show you today. No, this isn't it.
Yeah, it is.
No, what's the other one that we got?
Oh yeah, this one.
I don't even know. You don't even know
Yeah,
what this is.
that's what I want to know. I want to know what is this. It's very, very sharp. It's usually it has much finer little branches on there.
Oh, it's coming to me. If I were to go back and look at the footage from the Driftwood guy at
I
Aquashella,
Don't retain it.
this is. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Dragonwood? Is it Dragonwood?
Maybe. So it's got the light and the dark. Yeah, I mean, come on,
I don't
man.
think it's
I'm sticks. I
spiderwood.
got sticks. Look
It's
what I
gonna
can
get
do.
stuck on my hair.
You could be. You
It could be like a comb out
like
in the
the chick
wild.
from Lord of the Rings or something.
Calypt or something?
Okay, last one that I want to talk about
I don't
is this
know.
one, right?
To be
And
determined.
This, they're calling it shrimp wood.
Mhm.
At least they being Flip Aquatics. Why do we have dust
I know
on
because
here?
I had it right
Oh
over
my
there. I
gosh,
know.
Joanna, you could have cleaned this before you handed it to
I
me.
did, but then I put it back on
As
there.
if. Okay, so this has got like a Wolverine sort of thing going on. But anyway, they're calling this shrimp wood. And I think it's really cool because it shares characteristics of kind of like sort of Mopani-ish, but Mopani mixed with
I think it's
like some kind of like a spider wood sort of thing
no.
going on
I think
here.
it's Malaysian mixed with a little bit of Nekka wood. That's personally how I would call it.
You're wrong. You're wrong. So you're wrong. The wood says you're wrong. But anyway, yeah, they're calling this shrimp wood. Is it not spiderwood? The Zen says. Yeah, I don't know. They're calling it shrimp wood. And the reason why I mention this is
I think probably.
we are. What's that? Oh, this one.
Yeah.
I don't know. So the reason why we're mentioning this last is, believe it or not, this. Well, not this exact piece, but this is part of our giveaway for tonight. We're right at the time where we normally do the giveaway. So our giveaway tonight is a Flip Aquatics sponsored giveaway. And as you know, we are partnered with Flip Aquatics.
It's coral wood. Thank you. Wait, who just said that? I looked it up.
Can I continue now, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
So anyway,
Go ahead.
yeah, so Flip Aquatics is going to be sending out a couple pieces to a winner. This is the shrimp wood. It's about this, it's about the size of your hand. So if you've got a 5-10 gallon tank, this is a really nice idea. Again, if you don't want the tannins, this would be super easy to boil. It's not going to be super huge. Put a couple pieces in a pot. You can get the tannins out if you want to. It'll help it sink a little bit faster. It is a nice wood. It's got a lot of nice personality to it. A little bit sharp, so be careful with your bettas and your long fin fish. What else do we want to say about it? It is a harder wood. Will it eventually fall apart and break down? Probably, because it reminds me a little bit of, you're right, a little bit of Malaysian driftwood too in the way that it is, with its kind of
more-
structure.
It's more angular, I would think,
Yeah.
than Mopani.
Yeah, definitely a little
It's
bit more
not
angular.
two-toned.
So anyway, what's going to happen is I have to get some things up because when we do these, I need to make sure that we have all million screens up and running here and that all the screens are caught up with one another. We need to make sure that all of our chats that we're going to be reading are
All messages.
all messages and not like the top chat thing. And so, yeah, that's going to be a giveaway for us. Flip Aquatics, flipaquatics.com. We love them because they do smart things like quarantine their shrimp for a month and quarantine their fish for 2 weeks and make sure that people are getting the healthiest livestock possible. And they got tons of plants and they got tons of wood and they've got all kinds of stuff. So, all right, So here's what we have to do what you have to do in order to win said thing. So can I see that, please? So what we're going to do is the first person. Now don't do anything yet, because I have to type in the magic word. The first person that has the correct number between 10 and 20, you can go ahead. So between 10 and 20, first person who has the number that Joanna is holding between 10 and 20. And done. We're done. We're done. You can stop the typing if you so desire. So
Okay.
we're going to do our double check here. Man, you guys were really quick here. This is what I have. Let me make sure.
Yes.
Do we agree?
Believe so, but I'm
We're going to double check here real quick, because that's what we do. We want to make sure all of our screens agree. Yes? Okay, so, wait, where did it go? There it is. So go ahead and show the number, and that is By the Bylands. You are the winner, By the Bylands. And so
17.
here's what you got to do. You, if you would be so kind, send us an email to primetimegiveaway
Singular.
at yahoo.com. So primetimegiveaway at yahoo.com. I need your name and your mailing address, and then we'll make sure to get out your new shrimp wood. And if you didn't win, don't worry, everybody, because this is now the third week in a row that we've done a giveaway. So we are not averse to doing lots of giveaways, because it's fun. It's fun for everybody involved. Yep. So here's the deal, as always. If you asked a question before all these numbers came piling in, if you would be so kind as to ask it again so that we can answer it, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can. So hold on. Let me, that's funny, Mr. Skip. The spiderwood and Malaysian driftwood had a baby. Yep. And they produced
Right?
this thing. Hey, hello. Hello. It almost looks like,
Is it a gremlin?
no, like someone's, like the wood's doing this, right? Here, ready?
Oh yeah, kind of.
Peace out, man. How you doing? Okay. So that's what that's doing.
Doesn't it look
A
like
gremlin?
a gremlin when it turns into the mean? And I don't think I've ever seen a whole,
You know
the
what?
whole movie.
Oink. That's why you're a professional. Thank you for reminding me. And by the way, if you didn't win the giveaway, you can still win, so to speak, because in the description of, well, now it's right here, but in the description of this live stream, we also have it where if you go to flipaquatics.com and you would like to take a look at the driftwood that they offer, you can buy driftwood, and then at the end you type in primetime driftwood and you'll get 20% off. Now that's only good through the end of this week, so I think the code expires on Sunday at midnight. But if you are someone who's like, you know what, you've inspired me to introduce driftwood in my life, then you can go to Flip Aquatics and save money on your newfound inspiration and get driftwood into your life where it should be. How cool is that? And you can get lots of interesting pieces.
It does look like a bat taking off.
A bat taking off, huh? That's what
Yeah,
we're,
it looks
we're
like that
deciding?
too. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, thanks, Oink, for reminding me of that very
Thanks,
important
Oink. And
piece of information.
just so you know, I don't know starting at what point. She's actually in 2 different live streams.
Yeah. Yeah.
A big shout out to our moderators who followed us to Thursday.
Oh my
Y'all are the
gosh,
best. Just
For reals.
the best.
And everybody else, too.
And
Yeah,
everybody
'cause
else. How is
it can-
Thursday working out? Everybody,
It can be rather
I've seen a couple
destructive.
that, like, it's your first live in.
Yeah. Margie, thank you so much for the #1 sticker guy. Really appreciate it. Thanks for that. I saw something. Ted says, best place to buy driftwood. Hey, man. Flip Aquatics, 20% off. That's a darn good place.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, my gosh. Thank you, second floor. I was like, there was something I wanted to ask. Emma, have you ever had Fireball Corys? They have to, if you don't have them, they absolutely have to be on your list.
Were they named after Pitbull? Fireball.
Maybe.
Little bitty guy. Oh, that's pretty cool. Got some North Fin foods and Fritz complete today. Thank you. My fish love the food. That's awesome. Yeah, that's what we feed. So people ask all the time, And we just rotate through the different types of flakes and pellets and the floating food sticks and the Bug Pro and all that stuff.
Sharpie Aquatics. Hey, looks like Harvey from
Harvey.
the Jimmy Stewart movie. You don't even know it.
No, I don't.
Big giant
No.
rabbit.
No, I don't know. Joshua, thank you
See
so
what I
much
gotta
for the
put up
number
with?
one guy. Really appreciate it. Thanks for that.
Oh, Matt says thoughts on bonsai wood. That
Oh
was
my
oh my gosh,
gosh.
what a big fail. Should I get one?
Yes, go get it.
I'm
Hold
gonna
on.
go get one.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because that was a massive miss on my part. Well, no, on Joanna's part. Hold on, she's leaving, so we can talk in front of her back right now, because she's just standing right there. But oh my goodness, yeah, she's gonna go get some, and then I'll answer some questions while she's going to get the bonsai wood, because I've got some thoughts about that. Margie, thank you very much for the super chat. I have ick and one Python hose to dry out. Any hacks I can use other than a bucket? Following your protocol so far, so good. Awesome. All right, so let's see. You have ick. Okay, so yeah, in that video I talk about the treatment protocol of if your fish can handle it, raise the temperatures up. If you can get 84, 85, you're going to dramatically speed up the ick parasites replication process, which is actually what you want when you're adding in the ick meds like ick X, because that medicine works only when they're in their motile state, not when they're attached to the fish and not when they're down in the substrate. So as they start to swim around looking for their next host, and then that ick X is in the water, it dies out before it can find a new host. So the temperature increase actually helps them speed up that process, so you're not having to treat the tanks as long. If you can add salt, great. We can go anywhere from 1 tablespoon per 10 gallons. And if you've got like African cichlids or some type of fish that really can handle the ick meds, or I'm sorry, the salt, you can go as low as 1 tablespoon per 3 gallons, but you got to be so careful with that, because if you've got things like South American fish, most of them are not going to appreciate that at all. But if you had like guppies, mollies, platies, African cichlids, they're like, whatever, give us the 1 tablespoon per 3 gallons. As far as the Python hose, yeah, I mean, that's generally speaking the way that I do it. I really do try to isolate all of my equipment that I'm going to use for quarantine tanks, and in this case, the tank that you're treating right now, I try to make sure that my nets are not going into a different tank. If I can avoid it, if you only got 1 Python hose, you only have 1 Python hose, but the drying out is really, really important, because the ick parasite's not going to survive that drying out process very easily. You could run a 10% bleach solution through that hose. Just be really careful if you're also using that hose to refill your tanks. That's a little bit more, you got to make sure that you don't have any bleach residue in there before you start putting water back into the tank. But most of your dechlorinators will kind of help that. But the drying out is definitely something that you are going to want to do there. So hold on a second here, Joanna. We have, wait. That's what I thought. Wet Sleeves, thank you so much for gifting the 5 Primetime Aquatics memberships. Really, really appreciate that. That's awesome. So we got 5 new Prime Timers here, because Wet Sleeves is an awesome person. Now,
We love wet sleeves. See
go
you
ahead.
Sunday, right?
Do you want to show off?
Yeah, unfortunately a little piece fell off and I stepped on it.
So are you bedding anywhere?
I'm putting in a claim against you.
Wait, hold on. Time out. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah. Go. Show it. So that is a bonsai tree, bonsai wood. The Flip Aquatics has that too. Really cool. In fact, I did a YouTube short where I was showing off the bonsai wood. Things to think about. Well, thing number 1 is it's the most artsy of all the woods. I mean, just one piece in and of itself. Look what it looks like. It's really cool. Generally speaking, they stay fairly small. That's a pretty typical size.
Yeah.
Price-wise, they're the most expensive. Right?
Bucks.
Of all the wood that we've talked about, the bonsai wood is going to be the most expensive. At least that has been our experience for the entire time we've been keeping fish.
Yeah, just look at it.
There is sharp edges here, so be careful with your male guppies, your bettas, your veil tail type fish, that kind of stuff. What do people normally do with this wood? They don't usually leave it just like that, right?
No, moss. Moss, I would say, is the number 1. And then also like Anubias nana petite, anything small. I personally would probably try Boos, because you can break that up very easily in the little pieces. That would be super fun.
Yep.
But I've actually got one in a scape that's been sitting there for over a year.
I know, a dry scape, yeah. It's really inspiring. So by the time you get that, it's gonna be like 6 inches of like dust or something. But anyway,
Like-
yeah. Again, the moss all over the place makes
Mm-hmm.
it look like some kind of a tree.
What
Really
else?
doesn't release a lot of tannins,
No.
so sinks pretty good, right? I mean, you'd probably want to boil it a little bit, but it does as far as
I don't
like
remember.
the thinner wood. Yeah, it does.
Because the
Watch,
only
just
one,
chuck it back there.
right?
Plop.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's just floating there
Do
the
a
whole
float
time.
test?
Fish are like, what is going on here?
Because remember when we did Luke's tank way back when?
Yeah.
When he was just a little guy?
Yeah, and I don't
And
remember
I,
having any issues.
I have no recollection. It was like one of my first
Yeah.
scapes that I didn't know what I
So
was
this is
doing.
pretty cool stuff. Yeah, this is the bonsai wood. Like I said, expensive, doesn't release a lot of tannins. Great for shrimp, not so great if you've got long finned fish.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you cover it with Java moss, it's still, some of these things poke through sometimes. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But thanks for reminding us of that. I can't believe we went through an entire driftwood thing and almost forgot about the bonsai wood.
It would look really cool upside down, too.
Sure.
And like a Star Wars themed, you know, where he crashes the thing by meeting Yoda.
That always reminds me of Lord of the Rings when they go to the Fangor forest.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and the guys are, "Roar." Yeah, it takes us a long time. Yeah,
Treebeard.
Treebeard.
Oh, Treebeard's my
Not
favorite.
Treebeard. Treebeard.
Treebeard's my favorite. You know who he's
What are you
modeled
talking
after,
about?
right? You know who he's modeled after.
He's modeled after Treebeard.
No, Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were
What are you
like best
talking
friends.
about? I'm taller.
It's
No,
C.S.
I'm taller.
Lewis.
Whatever.
Because he talked like really loud, booming voice.
So Dory says, I had 3 peacock gudgeons. 2 died after a couple weeks. No idea why. The remaining one is healthy and active.
Aw.
Should I leave them by themselves or would they be happier with more? 20 gallon. You could do either one. I mean, they're fine solitary if you want to do that. If you're going to add more, sometimes it's actually beneficial to have, half a dozen or so. 20 long or 20 gallon. Yeah, 20 long can handle multiples. I bred those fish in 20 gallon tanks. At one point, I probably had 40 or 50 in a 20 gallon at least, probably more, because they have huge spawns, but you have to breed them on purpose. The fry don't survive unless you pull them out. So great fish, but yeah, it's too bad that 2 of them are no longer with you. If they're smaller, sometimes they can be a little hit or miss, but once they get to about an inch or so, they tend to be fairly stable in terms of their steadiness. Oh, that's a good question. Just for nice. Birchwood. Yeah, we don't have any birchwood in our fish room. I don't believe you've ever used it. There's been people in our fish clubs that have used it
That
and really
have.
made some amazing looking scapes. And we were under the impression years ago that was not a wood that you could put in an aquarium.
Yeah, but Mike, remember?
Yeah. Oh,
Mike
yeah.
would.
That's who I'm
He
thinking
even
about. And,
gave me,
and
like,
he's not the only
pieces.
one who's done it. So I'm still a little bit hesitant to put that in an aquarium because I hear, you still hear people like, oh, it has some sap. Somebody else asked about oak. I don't believe that's something that you normally put in an aquarium because pine, it's the woods that are really sappy. Generally speaking, it's just not something that I would add to an aquarium. But yeah, the birchwood is interesting because it's got that white bark, and yeah, when he put that in the aquarium, I was really surprised that the fish were okay and everything because you hear mixed reviews about it. So we haven't done it though. Great question. Joshua says, is drying out equipment effective toward most potential ailments? Yeah, certainly. A lot of the internal, external parasites, bacteria that are non-spore forming, as long as the infectious agent doesn't form spores or long-term cysts, which generally the cysts are not viable once they dry out. Yeah, drying, especially if you can dry it in the sun, very, very effective when trying to destroy, especially bacteria that are non-spore forming.
Oops.
Tank Girl says you should do a video escaping that, Joanna.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Great question, Taylor. Best ram for beginner breeder, Bolivian ram. And I say that because the German blue rams and the rams that are derived from the German blue rams, which is pretty much all the other ones, they like those really warm temperatures. So if you don't mind cooking them at 83, 84, they like that. But they also tend to breed a lot better when the water is softer, have a lower pH. So if you're someone who has that water naturally where you're like, hey, you know what? My pH struggles to get to a 7. My GH and KH are in the low single digits, and you want to put that water at 84 degrees, you're probably going to breed the German blue rams, the electric blues, the yellows. If your water is closer to what we have, and that is, okay, there it's approaching 7.5 or above, 7.5 to 8, and you don't want to have to keep them super warm, or you want that normal 78, maybe 80 at the most, your water's a little bit harder, then the Bolivian ram is going to be a much easier fish for you to breed. So it just depends on your water parameters. Great question. Is using hydrogen peroxide or rubbing alcohol to sterilize a hose all right, flushed with water and dried out after cleaning? The hydrogen peroxide is a better option, in my opinion. Just because the rubbing alcohol on those hoses can be a little bit, that can be damaging after a while, and it can actually make the hoses brittle. So, but the hydrogen peroxide, the nice thing about the H2O2 is it just breaks down into water and oxygen gas after a while. So even if some of it goes in the tank, as long as it's not a lot, if there's a residue in that hose, most likely everything's going to be okay, unless it was like, hey, I ran it all through and I got puddles of this stuff kind of still sitting in there. But the drying out is super important no matter which one you use.
Sylvie wants to know, what about eucalyptus roots? I find them so pretty, but I heard they release a lot of tannins. I think, because that's eucalyptus, like oil. That's my first. I would think it would be no. That would be my first guess.
I don't know.
Eucalyptus? Yeah, I would. Yeah, you'd have to research that, but my hunch would be no.
Well, then I say go with it. MNC says Christmas moss would look really cool. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Emma said that
Christmas
too.
moss,
She said
yeah.
it looks less of a hot mess than Java moss.
True.
So-
Yeah, it tends to stay a little bit more confined to itself.
And it's the appropriate time of the year to use Christmas moss.
True. Do you still have that video up on your channel where you didn't you do like a Christmas
my
moss aquascape? Like, it was like one of the first videos you had on the small scape. It was really
I did
cool.
a wreath. You think of the wreath?
Maybe
or
I'm
you
thinking
think I did
no, you did
bunch
something
of crazy
with
ones.
lights
I did
under, like, in
lights,
the water or
and then I
something.
did a snowman. I did a snowman, and then I did a wreath.
Yeah. That's
I
pretty
think
cool.
of the three crazy ones. Yeah, I was meaning last year, and even the year before, to do another like Christmas themed, like
Yeah, you
goofy
should
one.
do one.
It would be very different. I got something specific for it, and then the next year came, and I'm like, I still want to do that, and I'm like, oh, I still need that, so I bought another one, and then I found the first one. I'm like, now I have two, which is not a big problem, but yeah,
Gotta
maybe.
get her done.
I need styrofoam though.
Yeah. Our Morgan, I finally got some Maltese here in Wales. So hard to get. Got 7 of them after 6 months of looking, thanks to your channel. Any advice to make them thrive? So that's very cool. I didn't realize they were so hard to get there, but
They're gonna have little British accents.
they will. They absolutely will. So advice, they're not all that difficult to keep as long as your water parameters are fairly similar to what they would enjoy, and that is the closer you can get to a pH of 8, 8.2, they're going to thrive. Water hardness, again, we keep ours at right around 10 degrees GH and KH. They love that. They can go harder water than that. They can go into the teens, no problem. Temperatures, upper 70s, 78 to 80, they're going to love that. They don't do well with ammonia, nitrite. I try to keep the nitrates in all my tanks at 20 parts per million or less, but the Lake Tanganyikans especially, they are not all that happy when the nitrates start to climb 30, 40, 50, 60 parts per million. Give them time. A lot of times people, when they are first getting into shell dwellers, they see all these videos like we have where, oh my gosh, there's babies everywhere. I would give them at least 2 to 3 times more shells than you have tank mates. That's going to help ease some aggression and spread them out all over the aquarium. They might start moving sand and moving the shells, but at least if you've got 20 shells in there, everybody's going to be able to find a home. They need time to settle in. They need time to grow up. And then I promise, if you've got all the water parameters straight, once they start breeding, they will really start kicking out some babies. And you'll notice that the females are smaller because the male Maltese are larger. They start spending a lot more time in the shells, and they won't venture very far from the shells. So that's usually when you're like, okay, something's probably going on. And then the little tiny fry, they are so cute because it's like they get more confidence, right? The first time you see them, they just kind of peek their head out and boom, right back in. They won't go, and then they just start venturing a little bit further away from the shells as time goes on until they become their own grown-ups. So,
That's
but
right.
that's really cool
So
because if
cute.
there's not a lot of them in your area and you can get them to breed, then I remember a time, even around here, where we could go to swaps and those Maltese were like, we could get $7-8 a piece for them. Now for us around here, maybe $4 or $5, but because a lot of people have them. But if you're in an area where they're not super common, very cool. Definitely an awesome thing. Ooh, good question. Is there ever a chance fish can cut themselves on bonsai or spiderwood? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That can happen, especially. So, we often talk about long fin. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great question. We talk about long fin fish a lot, but I don't think we talk enough about very active fish in something like this. So I would not, if I had an aquarium that, let's say, had tinfoil barbs, ballast sharks, silver dollars, something that is going to just freak out sometimes and just be a little bit skittish and kind of lose their minds. And, oh, you scared me. Let me go fly around the tank 50 times and smash my face off the glass. Really bad idea with this wood because they will absolutely injure themselves, poke themselves. Fish can damage their eyes. So, yeah, it's not enough just to say, oh, be careful with the long fin fish. Also be careful if you've got larger, really, really active fish that like to freak out. This can be a bad thing. So, yeah, they can... Sometimes you'll see that. And, piranhas would be another one. Where any fish where you're like, oh, man, what was wrong with their face? It looks like they bounce off the glass from time to time. This would be a bad option for them as well. That's a good question. Glad you asked that one. All right, let me scroll here. This guy says, what types of rams have you had the most success with? I think I remember Chicagoland having similar pH to where I'm located. Yeah, we have a pH in our fish room close to 8, and our water hardness, like I said, is 10 degrees GH and KH, pretty close to that. So the regular German blue rams, the electric blues, yellows, those fish generally don't thrive in our water parameters, like a lot of the Epistos don't thrive in our water parameters. That's why the Bolivian ram to me that's a great fish. It's underappreciated because when it's small and you see them at a pet store, they don't look like much. They're kind of a silvery fish. It's almost like the full-size Geophagus. The Bolivian rams, micro Geophagus, they're smaller. But when they get larger is when they really start to show their beauty. And it's not as overt like the German blue rams where you just got this huge amount of color. The Bolivian ram gets a beautiful pink color to the outlines of their fins, and the males get these nice long fin trailers to both their tail and their dorsal fin. They get some red, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue in their body, but it is really pretty. So the Bolivian ram to me is, yeah, that's the one.
Oh, Noel said, looking for some Christmas gifts for your favorite fish keeper. Visit our merch store. Okay, so you did the community post.
Yeah.
But let me clarify. Like all the shirts are $15, all of them, because we need to clear out because we have so many designs that it's very difficult to keep like track of them all because we bring some to the swaps and some are here. So they're all like, most of them are discontinued. Like get them now. We have not all the sizes left, so the pinks will be no more. The fish wrangler, shrimp wrangler. I think we still have a few more stuck on you. The Anubias shirts.
Just scape it. Do we still have any
No,
of those? Okay.
those are gone.
Camo. The
camo,
Oh, I thought I was wearing a primetime shirt. The camo one. Yeah.
So
and then we will be ordering at some point. We'll get some more chalkboards.
Chalkboards, yeah. But I want to clear out some first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I saw a question. Oh, Max says I can't seem to keep cherry shrimp alive. Any tips? Again, we haven't had a whole lot of problems keeping any of the Caridina, however you want to pronounce it, which is the cherries, the blue dreams, yellows, oranges. For the most part, they seem to do okay in our water parameters, which are, again, ideally they would do better in water parameter that's a little bit softer, where maybe the GH and KH were in like the upper single digits. We keep them warm, and that's actually not a good thing. So if you're doing that, they're going to die a lot faster. So we don't have a choice. We can't cool tanks down in here, so we have to heat this room to like 82 degrees. That keeps all of our tanks at 78. So our Blue Dream shrimp breeding tank, those they tend to breed fast, but they don't last nearly as long because that tank is like 78 degrees. That's not ideal if you want shrimp to have the longest possible lifespan. So we have a trade-off. They grow fast in that water because it's warm. They reproduce very quickly, but they tend to not have the same lifespan as if you were keeping the cherry shrimp or the blue dreams like we're talking about here, if you kept them in the upper 60s. So if you keep them in the upper 60s, maybe your GH and KH are in the upper single digits or so. Ideally, they'd probably like water closer to 7, but we're closer to 8. So water parameters, that's pretty much what we're looking for. And of course, quality breeders, right? Again, that's why we recommend Flip Aquatics all the time, because they're going to quarantine those fish, or I'm sorry, those shrimp for 4 weeks. They're going to make sure they go through a molt, and that you're not getting shrimp that have not molted yet, and then they molt due to the stress in the bag, and then they're just going to die on you. So that can be a big part of it. So, and Rob from Flip Aquatics, the owner of Flip Aquatics, he did an excellent presentation, and I actually sat in on it at Daytona Aquashella, because he was talking about how with the shrimp, they have to quarantine them for a month and make sure they go through their first molt, because the shrimp, if they get stressed out in shipping, they will molt prematurely. But when they do that, they almost never see that next molt. They die instead. And so, and a lot of places in the supply chain, they don't care about that. They're just moving shrimp, right? So they're getting shipped from overseas, winding up at a wholesale facility, winding up at a pet store, and they've been shipped all over the place. And if they went through that molt prematurely, by the time you get them, they're not going to survive. And so I think that could be part of the issue, depending on where people are getting their shrimp.
Wait, there was one that I wanted to, Noel forwarded a question from Yasi. If I went into the woods, picked up a piece of wood, that what would make it not okay? What should I look for? Good question.
Sap, softness, any kind of growth, mold, mildew, fungus. I would be more likely, if I were going to put wood in a tank from the wild, it would come out of another body of water. I would be a little bit more, I don't want to say confident, but generally speaking, I don't like to do that, because you still want to make sure it dries, right? 100% dries out.
Boil it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't know necessarily the wood that you're finding on a forest floor, what kind of wood it is. You could put that in your tank and kill everything. And I mean kill stuff quick. I'm 95% sure the tank issues that I had in that top 125, when I had issues with my Severums and my Geos that I put in that tank, actually came from wood that I'd introduced, because those fish had gone through quarantine and been in my fish room for at least 2 months in separate tanks.
Yeah.
Put them in the 125 after we escaped it, and they all died except for one Severum, and I still have him. Actually, he's back in that tank. He came full circle and he's back in there.
He's like, oh, back
yeah, he
here
probably
again.
freaked out when I put him in. He was like, oh no, not this place again. But I would just be really, really careful if you're gonna do that. We didn't mention this, and that's a good one too. We mean petrified wood. I don't think we have any examples of petrified wood, but it's cool. I love it. Right? Have you used it before in an aquarium?
It's rock.
Well, I know, but it's petrified wood.
Yeah, I know. What do you mean? Have I used it before?
Have we used it in an aquarium?
It's right next to my desk.
Well, I don't know these things.
The last one that I did one of the 8.5s that we had in the studio. We had the 4 of them lined up. Well, I got 2 still up and running. One of them I had gotten few pieces. It's pricey. It's heavy. It's pricey.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful. The one scape at Aquashella. We did Austin's.
Yeah, that was an awesome scape.
Loved it.
Yeah. Wang says, I normally don't wear a lot of Christmas shirts, but yours, that's my favorite Christmas shirt of all time. Well, thank you very much.
Oink, you should probably check your stocking. Just saying.
Do we have those on the website?
We only have size large.
Well, that's a pretty common size. Is that for sure?
We only have like 5 large, 4 large, 3, something like that. And then, some of them I can remember, like, we only have small. But I'm pretty sure it's only like a large.
Kamirka says, we do a full video series of videos of growing out brine shrimp. At some point, maybe. I just have to find a tank. I've been wanting to do that for a while, as opposed to just having a live baby brine, feed it out. It's great for small fish. I've been wanting to be like, all right, let me set up the tank to actually feed the live baby brine food so they can grow up into big adult brine, and then the fish can have that, especially for some of the medium-sized fish. So at some point, yeah, I don't have a ton of space right now. So every stand, every nook and cranny on the other side and the fish room side is being used as quarantine tanks. But if I can find even just ideally like a 10 or a 5-gallon tank and start that up, I've been thinking about doing it for the longest time.
Second floor and R. Morgan. No, we do not currently ship overseas. I wish we did, because I would love to see our shirts go to the old UK. Did you already say that?
No, I'm pointing at you because you got to get her done.
I know. I have to figure out how to do that, because all I have to do is really take a plane and fly them over.
Yes,
I'll
that
bring
will
them
be
to the UK.
very efficient. Yeah.
To the Cotswolds.
Yeah.
That's where you need to meet
3 days
me.
later. Yeah.
No, we're talking 3 weeks later. I'm getting my money's worth. I want to see Port Isaac. I want to see all the great places.
Mr. Skippity Doo-Dah. I have breeding cichlids, and a hap has scratched his eye that turned white.
Aww.
And then the next part of that was how much salt. Well, they're haps, so I wouldn't hesitate to go at least 1 tablespoon per 4 or 5 gallons. I think you're going to be fine. Yep.
Oh,
Liquid says, hope to see you guys this Sunday. Well, we're going to be there, so make sure you stop on by and say hello.
Say howdy, howdy.
We'll be in Davenport, Iowa at the Quad City Swap. Like I said before, if you're in that area, we get people from all over the place, especially there, Minnesota, Missouri, obviously Illinois, Wisconsin, where else? Iowa, because it's in Iowa. So, yeah.
Imagine that.
I know.
King of DIY says, I can't keep any shrimp in my water, yet Tamara can in my same water. And she's breeding all of them, Neocaridina and Caridina. I have no idea how she's doing it. Likely she just doesn't listen to me.
That's right. She's punking you
well.
out. Yep. 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 She's got the shrimp touch. And then that's great for you because you can deal with all the big stuff. And
Yeah.
then she can make all the money breeding shrimp and be like, I am now a master shrimp breeder, and supply the
Right?
entire country of Canada with shrimp. And that's how it all started. That's pretty awesome. V says, I lost my betta a couple weeks ago. Did not realize at the time, but now think it was perhaps gill flukes. Will they eventually die off without a fish host? Only resident is a nearite. Over time, probably. Yep. Ooh, very good, Oink. Perhaps vinegar usage would be good to use on a hose as well. Absolutely. That's a really, really good option. Thanks for mentioning that, because that would be less invasive than some of the harsher chemicals for sure. Very nice.
Oh, Noel wants to know, been meaning to ask, are they all based on men's sizes? Inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, it's unisex.
Yeah. Did we ever do like an actual ladies like V-neck cut? I thought at one point you were thinking about it, and then
No, we got a sample, and then
was it weird fitting or something? Like I think the sample was like,
I
oh,
think
this is,
so.
Yeah, because I remember you saying I'm not wearing this because it was just like it was not fitting the way you wanted it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point, along with like what else would be been requested for, like hoodies, long sleeve.
Oh yeah, I'd like to branch out someday.
Yeah, but
like get socks.
Me making a decision.
Wristbands. You know, like the old 1980s wristbands.
How about some gold bracelets?
Yeah. Well, those might be a little bit more expensive, but the red, white, and blue, you know, like the cloth ones, where you go exercise.
Wonder Woman.
Jazzercise. Yeah. This guy says Aquatics Unlimited has moss wreaths. That's hard to
I know.
say. Moss
I
wreaths.
saw them after I did the video.
That's so cool.
But
Aquatics Unlimited, if
or
you're in
did
the
I see
Milwaukee
'em
area in Wisconsin, that is a really, really cool store.
It is
and
really
we haven't been
cool.
up there since they redid it, and I
No.
keep saying we got to go there. We got to go
Right?
there. So I'm going to
They
say
got
it
a-
again.
They got a garden center across
I
the
will
street.
say it again. Just for nice says, what test kits have you had the most success with? We are currently, we've got these. This is the Fritz Aquatics one. We've used the API ones before. They work. I prefer these. They generally work they both work well, but this one is just a little bit easier to use because it's got a full range pH as opposed to like the low and the high range, and then the directions of the color matching is a little bit easier. So that's why we've kind of stuck with, we are, again, full disclosure, we're sponsored by Fritz Aquatics, but and I always say that we were a customer way before we were ever a partner with them. But that's what we use. You can use the test strips as well. This is a little bit easier. Not, a lot of people say that's not quite as accurate. I think it gets you in the ballpark, right? When I use these, and I am way more likely to use one of these than to bust out all of these test tubes and liquid and take the time to do this. I'm much more likely to use these. And the nice thing about it is you dip it in the tank, and a couple of minutes, for some of these tests, maybe you got to wait like a minute, but you're done. There was no water to fill, no reagents to, spill all over the place. You don't have to worry about safety, getting stuff in your eyes and wearing goggles and glasses and stuff. So this to me is something where I don't really care if it's, even if it were, and I'm not saying it is, but even if it were off just a little bit, I don't care. Because the minute this thing starts rating ammonia or nitrite, I know I got an issue. I can always go to the liquid test kit at that point and be like, okay, let me just make sure. If there is an issue with water hardness or pH, I'm not somebody who's like, oh my gosh, I can't tell if it's 7.4 or 7.6 or 7.8. I don't care. I know it's in the upper sevens. It's going to get you close enough, and you're still going to be a really successful fish keeper as long as you can approximate those things reasonably.
Faye of the Fae says hoodies. I'm a hoodie person.
Yeah, I am too. I have kind of a problem with hoodies.
Yeah.
I've got like a whole section of the closet. Does anybody experience this? Is it just me? One of the most annoying things on earth is when you have your sweatshirts or sweaters stacked up on the top shelf of your closet, and you're trying to get the third one down, and you pull it out, and the whole freaking stack falls out of the top shelf of your closet. And now there's sweatshirts, so the sleeves are going everywhere, the hoodie part's going all over the place.
It makes me angry.
It is very frustrating. Like, there are a few things when I'm getting dressed that frustrates me more than when I try to pull a hoodie down and the whole stack comes tumbling down on top of me.
Yeah, I hear you. You need a little step stool or something. Like when you have a library, the library ladder, you need a hoodie ladder. You
need something, because that is just not cool. I don't like it. I think we got time for a couple more.
Oh, what? Noelle says, I used to punch out the bottom of our McDonald's cups the few times we'd go as kids and cover them in aluminum foil to make Wonder Woman bracelets as a kid. Rock on.
Hey, that's pretty awesome.
I used to spin around at the base of the stairs, and I never once turned into Wonder Woman. It was very frustrating. Never once.
I'm sorry.
I was a big fan of Steve Trevor, though.
What's Steve Trevor?
Who's Steve Trevor? He was the love interest.
There was somebody
Linda
else on
Carter.
the TV show besides Wonder Woman? I didn't know that. I thought I was just heard running across the screen all the time as a little kid. Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Steve Trevor was there.
Butt sleeves. I'm wearing the Stuck on You.
I know, that's awesome. I love it. Anubia's humor.
Holy cow, man. I'm like way not even close to the bottom of this chat. What is going on here? So I just scrolled all the way down. Sorry. All right, so let me now I got to scroll back up again because I went too far. Yep. Tony B says, I have both Fritz test kit and test strips. The strips seem to be just as accurate for me. Yeah, me too. Again, you'll hear people say from time to time, oh, they're not as accurate. For me, it doesn't matter regardless. But yeah, I haven't had any issues with them disagreeing with one another, to be clear.
Ben Sharp says, dollar store cutting boards to separate sweatshirts. I could see that.
Yeah. Maybe.
That's actually a good idea. Got my mind thinking here.
William says, quick question. What would a good house plant be to use on a 155-gallon tank? So don't put any house plants in an aquarium because the stems and the roots will often rot. However,
peace lily.
Or pothos. You can put the stem of pothos, and I've had some, if you go back and look at some of the older fish room tours, usually the part ones, probably from like 2020, I had a 40-gallon and the 75 as well, where I had pothos on top and the roots grew all along the perimeter of the tank and grew straight down and into the gravel.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, I know.
So,
you were pretty happy with that.
And it will suck out. You want to talk about reducing nitrate. The issue when you're using aquatic plants is because they are submerged in water, the gas exchange isn't as efficient as a land plant. And so they can't grow as fast. Now, obviously, if you use CO2, they grow a little bit faster. But a plant that is just a regular open air plant, the gas exchange is as efficient as it can get. And so they're going to process a lot more nitrate than any aquatic plant probably ever would.
Joshua asks, have you ever experienced a Cory mouth sealing shut after treating for mouth rot?
I have not, but I have also not had to treat
Oh.
a Cory for mouth rot. So
That's awful.
yeah.
How does he eat?
Now she says, did you make a species profile on the Nanacara? Not yet, but that will eventually come because, yeah, we've got Nanacara anomala in our fish room. They're going to the swaps. They started with the green water one. It is an awesome fish. It's basically like, imagine an electric blue acara, only smaller. Like they're going to max out at a couple of inches. And they get the blue, but they also get a yellow undertone to them. And so they're really cool if you've got smaller tank, like a 20-gallon, and they're awesome fish. Those, and then you are really stuck on the Nanochromis transvestitis, a red belly dwarf cichlid.
I'm in love.
Yeah, those are
They're
awesome fish
stunning.
too. They're not cheap, unfortunately, but very cool.
I love them.
Oh,
So
this
anyways,
is good. Hold on, I got to answer this one.
Okay.
Outdoors with Alex. Now I just have to convince my parents to let me get a fish tank and a pea puffer.
oh, I know. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
they're so cute.
A 10-gallon will work just fine.
Oh,
Get a little 10-gallon kit. It'll be awesome.
googly eyes.
Yeah.
You're never going to leave them.
Yep, it's going to be cool. Did you have something you wanted to say?
There was something and you made me miss it.
Wow, I
So
made
anyways,
you.
methylene blue. Joshua said that he treated with methylene blue
Okay.
and it healed the mouth rot, but
Sure.
then the mouth sealed shut.
Yeah, that I don't know. But yeah, methylene blue is an effective treatment. Methylene blue, malachite green, formalin.
Too effective.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's
I don't know.
I don't know if the methylene blue actually did that. It could just be the way that
The
things kind of healed up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tony B, thank you so much for the super chat. Great live chat. Well, I'm glad you were here. And on that note, I think
is it time already?
it is.
Oh
It's
my
already like
gosh.
it's getting late in the evening. And so thank you, everybody, for being here. For all the super stickers, super chats, moderators holding down the fort, the awesome questions, for playing along with the giveaway. We are going to be back same time, same place next week, Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Bring your questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can. I think we've got a pretty fun topic for next week as well.
Really?
That I'm excited about. Yeah.
'Cause this week was pretty stinking
Yeah.
fun.
No, we got another good one next week. So thank you for being here. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week, everybody.
Night night.
Bye-bye.